welcome to Empower You Crown Up. That is Empower, the letter U underscore Crown Up. You can follow me on all social media platforms. Today, we have a very special guest with us today. We have Dr. Richardson. Hello, we're so excited to
Hey,
have you.
thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just excited to have you on our episode today where we believe in empowering minds to just have empowered lives and just helping the world just be a better place each and every day. Of course, with us leading by example. So tell us about you and what it is that you do.
So I'm a doctor of education. I finished that up some time ago, and initially what my plan was to really take the next step of educating the youth. But then I started to take a different route. Seeing what like the generations of what we lack as far as male leaders, and not just leaders, but people who are willing to coach and prepare others to feel empowered and how to navigate through life. A lot of us didn't get that training and that coaching and mentorship growing up. So I got my doctorate in education, specifically in leadership and professional practice. So now what I do, I founded Different Reasons Incorporated, and what we do is we lead, we train, we coach, we mentor, and we educate. In different regions of the world. We speak all over the place. Just did a keynote in Paris, and I have a few other this year. So that's what I am. That's what I do, man. I prepare people for tomorrow, leaders for tomorrow, and mostly empowering a leader within us all as individuals, helping people discover who they are as a leader and tuning into that self identity. It's a difficult journey to figure out who you are as a leader and how to lead properly, but someone has to help us all figure out who we are because we're not here for any just no reason at all. Everyone has a divine purpose.
Yes. And you're right. You said some good points about being a leader because sometimes we get in this box and we're like, okay, we know how it was seen or it appeared to look. But it's a whole nother ball game when you are actually in the driver's seat leading
Uh,
people, whether it's you leading your home, leading a ministry, leading at work, leading your business. Like there's so much. And that's why it's so hard for so many. And I'm more on the mental health side of things now, but it's hard for people because they feel like they have to show up and just put on this, sense of everything's good. And the reality of it is everything is not good. Every single day, everything's not good. But we can change our mindset and we can change our perspective on how we view things that do happen in our lives, whether it's in our control or out of our control. And so, with that, what do you do daily to kind of help yourself to show up to be the best version of yourself? Because I know education, I come from an educational background too, and every day it is. I had to say, okay, every day is a new day because I mean, you're dealing with parents, you're dealing with students, you're dealing with staff. It's a lot. It's a lot.
one of the things I know specifically for myself, I try to go before the Lord first with anything, just to be grounded and centered because you never know what you have to encounter that day, and dealing with people in general, you just never know what condition the heart of a person you're dealing with. You don't know what type of mental state of mind that they're in. So when you as a leader, the one of the most important things for you to notice is that you're the most important and least important person at the same time. So you got to
Yeah.
know when, which part of that to apply. You can't, being a leader is not about being important. It's not about having the answers. It's not about uh, being able to do everything on your own. It's not about being a dictator. It's none of the above. It's more about being able to connect with the hearts of the people who understand what needs to be done and being able to properly guide them. Because at the same time, they're guiding you also. You can't as a leader, you can't do it by yourself. So you need people to help you carry whatever vision or whatever revelation God has given you. So the hardest part about being a leader is being able to trust that everyone trusts you to get the job done,
Mhm.
and you being able to trust that they're with you and devoted to you. And then you also have to know that they're not really doing it for you; they're doing it for God, just the same way you are. So
That's
it's
right.
leadership it's such a complex thing, and it's simply complicated, if that makes sense.
It is, but listening to you say that it just really matters on who's in your circle because you feel like if you have the right people in your circle to begin with, then you can rest assured that when times get tough, that okay, you on the same page. We're all headed to the same mission. We all have that servant attitude. And we're striving each and every day to be like Jesus in that sense. But when you have some selfish people, on the boat, it kind of reminds me of, Jonah, and it was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, we need to, who ain't right on this boat? Let us throw Jonah back across, because this, we weren't having all these problems and things before Jonah got on the boat. But I said that to say, how do you help people to know, like, okay, I do have the right people in my boat, or the right people that's with me to get to where my goal is intended to get done. Or sometimes we have to shift gears in the middle. So how do I know, like, okay, everybody who say they with me ain't with me?
Well, that's the test of leadership, because everyone's not going to be with you, but you have to be able to, you got to be able to meet people where they are. And John Maxwell said something recently, and it's very powerful. He's one of my mentors and leaders also. In fact, I got one of my very first certifications through Maxwell World Leaders. Very, very, very powerful, inspirational, influential man, and man of God more than anything. But he said that, an insecure leader replaces people, but a real, true, devoted leader, he develops. So not having people who aren't with you, they're with you, but you haven't developed them in a way where they can understand why they are there. And everyone on your team is there for a purpose, and they have to feel value, and they also have to see the incentive of doing the work that's required, because at the end of the day, they have to know that they're growing also. And I think that's one of the ways a lot of leaders fail is, you have a lot of people up underneath your umbrella, and they're doing all of these different things, and it's benefiting you as a leader, but they can't see the value in what they're doing. So they become discouraged, they become unhappy, they get disgruntled, they become rebellious. And take Christ, for instance. Christ picked out 12 people, and he developed them over time. And then they didn't understand it in the moment, but once he was gone and they didn't have the access to him that they were used to, they began to understand. But then they were more powerful when he was gone, and they still carried out the mission. So if you're not developing leaders, or you're not developing your team, then you're not developing yourself. You're not developing your organization. And it starts at home too. That's one of the big things I think we miss about leadership. You learn leadership at home. So if would you walk out on your children? Actually, really ask yourself that question. Would you walk out on your children? Would you choose not to develop your children? Because if you can't develop your children, you can't develop others. And that's the beginning stage of learning how to be a leader, learning how to prepare people, learning how to be coachable. Because even as me as a father, I learn from my kids. I remember my daughter when she was just 1 year old, 2. She taught me some stuff about myself that I didn't like it, but I accepted that she was right. It didn't matter that she was so young. I asked myself, like, wow, like I'm really being chastised by a 2-year-old, or what soon to be a 2-year-old. Humility, man. That humility is a real thing. As a leader, you got to be humble. You got to exercise some humility and understand that people need you to develop them into the person that they need to be, so that you can ultimately be who you're supposed to be also, because it works as it's a collective effort.
And that's really good that you said that, because we have to look at ourselves too. And as a leader, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and make the changes that are needed. And that helps, to me, the people who are following behind you or in your steps, because that helps them to say, you know what, you're not perfect either. And you're not trying to present yourself as if you are. And so because you are being authentic, that's our word, being authentic and being real with yourself, you can help others to be the best version of themselves. So tell us about your business and how you got started, because we know education, and you're right, it's so many avenues of education that a lot of people really don't even know that exist until you have stepped foot in education. Then you see things differently.
So when I was a kid, I had a math teacher in high school. His name was we called him G. His name was Mr. Garant. He was a real young, real young guy, man. Real cool, but he didn't take the nonsense. He inspired me to be a teacher. Now, unfortunately for myself, I didn't actually go into youth education, but I did start as a youth minister at a church. So that kind of taught me a little bit about what it's like to be, I don't want to say the shepherd of some children, but this one guy, he called me the Pied Piper of the youth. He said I would lead him from 4 to 40. I said, okay, I know that doesn't make sense, but all right, so I realized, going through life, I was more of a occupational educator, executive education, teaching organizations, or at least being able to identify how an organization needs more leadership development, more organizational development, team development. So I got into that realm of education, which was a lot more relative to me because I like to, I still think sometimes with a youth mind looking to be led by the right people and understanding that as a leader you can kind of pivot to help other leaders, develop their strength. But it means taking that route of education. While I was in the army, I had one of my first sergeants. He told me something that it puzzled me for quite some time, and he said he didn't want to advance me into leadership as at that time when he could have because my influence was too strong. And I
Mm,
thought that was powerful, but I understand, over time, I understood over time what that meant. And the direction he was trying to take us in, my influence probably would have conflicted that. And it's not that I was like a bad person or anything. It's just I didn't understand what he needed and what he wanted and expected from us as a team. But the problem is that I was so valuable that I was able to give my input to help everyone see the bigger picture. And I was doing that even as a young soldier. So it showed me that I was just for myself. I first of all thank God that I have the wisdom, the knowledge, and understanding to be able to lead adults and people who are in seats and positions of power over me. It shows you that you can never be too old or too young to learn from anyone. And I think that's
that's right.
one of the biggest things about education. It's not just in the school system. Education is everywhere, 24 hours a day. You just have to be willing to understand and accept that you're always learning, and if you're not learning, you're not growing.
Mm. And that is so real. If you are not learning, you are not growing. And that's important, and I think that a lot of time our youth, they take that for granted of being able to go to schools or just be able to get knowledge right at the access of their fingertips and not realizing like it used to be a time where you had to go to the library and sit down, take out the book,
Yeah.
just to write your paper and do all this stuff. And now people are like, "What? You did that? Like people did that? Like yes, people did that. They did not have all this information, but now it's so much information. You have to be able to filter that and just make sure that you are growing and wanting to just be better each and every day and putting yourself in those right circles and things of that nature. So tell us, what does that look like for someone to work with you, or what do they have to do? What are the steps?
To work with me, I don't know what that looks like for a lot of, but it's anyone working with me, and it's almost always client based, before it becomes partnership or and sometimes it's not client based. A lot of times it's relationship referral and whatever connection that we have. So working with me is always in a realm of building a relationship to help everyone develop. And I know that that's not ideal for a lot of people. Sometimes there's no incentive in building relationships. A lot of people want what they expect out of the outcome or the encounter a lot sooner than prior to building the foundation. The foundation is never really important. It's always the end goal. So working with me, a lot of I had a company before I sold it not too long ago.
Mm,
And most of my employees, it's more family based. And I know, I hear a lot of times,
love.
lately, where you shouldn't make your employees feel like your family. Like, no, you do, because they want to feel like they're at home. They spend 8, 9, sometimes 12 hours a day away from their actual home. When they get to work, they need to feel
Right.
like they're in an environment where they can comfortably be themselves. And that's difficult sometimes because as an employee or even as a leader of an organization, you have to wear so many different masks and so many different hats, on a daily basis. So you never really truly get to be yourself. But then you discover that the best way to be is to be yourself in that environment because then everyone can feel comfortable and safe. And it doesn't take the integrity away from the organization. It just kind of helps build it up. And then you get to define and understand what your place of culture is like. And that's where you begin to grow because you know who fits and who doesn't. And what's this? I forget his name. I read this book a while ago. The entrepreneur Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy wrote the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, and one of the things that he emphasized in that book is that an organization can tank. It can go south if you don't have the right people. So if you don't have the
That's
right
right.
people, it's because you didn't get interpersonal with anyone to get to know who they are. So you don't even know what your work culture is like. You don't even know what type of society of people you're dealing with. And it's not always about demographics. A lot of times it's just being able to have a common understanding with who you're working with and who you're working for, because everyone essentially is working for each other.
That's right. That's really, really good. And that's why when you were saying that, you reminded me of how many times people are like, you would rather have a position unfilled so you can take your time and hire right instead of just hiring anybody. Because having that family connection is important, especially since you spend so many hours at work. And then also, you need that because you never know what people are going through and how you can pull from one person or how that person can pull from somebody else. And, I know for myself personally, anywhere I've ever worked, that I felt at home was because they let the guard down so you could be yourself without judgment. And they showed appreciation for one another and they acknowledged when you did something good. So that makes you want to be like, okay, let me do something else or, just
Yeah.
something, which is important. And we have to start celebrating each other because a lot of times people just, everything's a competition. Who wants to be in an environment 8 to 12 hours a day and everything's a competition?
Yeah, that's taxing on the brain. It's actually bad for your mental health. Like
Mm,
when I worked for the state of Tennessee, Labor and Workforce Development, probably one of the best groups of people that I've ever worked with. It was just, everyone had their excuse me, everyone had their responsibilities and the things that they did, but it was just such a like we had group talks in the morning. If someone was lacking with a client
yes.
or someone from the public, like we kind of work together to help everyone get an understanding. And what you realize is working with a team of people who all have needs, you realize the one common thing everyone is looking for, rather it be at work, at home, rather it be on sports teams, in any type of recreational environment, everyone's looking for the same thing. And it's the underlying thing is love. Everyone's looking for love. Everyone's looking for joy. Everyone's looking to be appreciated, and everyone's looking to be respected. They want empathy. They want to know that they're valued. They want to know that they're safe. Everyone's looking for the same thing. So you have to be able to develop a culture or an environment where people can experience that. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you have to have rules and policies for it. You just have to have the integrity of what that means inside of you as a person.
Yes. And really going back to our golden rule is treating people the way you want to be treated or should want to be treated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we know you have a book and things of that nature. Tell us about that.
So yeah, so the book, I won't release it probably until this upcoming fall or December. It actually is two of them. I have
Okay.
one is called No More Excuses, and what it is a book written based on the concepts of Christianity and how we're saved and given grace and mercy through Christ, but that does not give us the excuse to freely make negligent decisions because we know that we
That's
can
right.
make mistakes or it's in our nature to make mistakes. That doesn't work. And, I've learned that through experience and having to be accountable within myself for some of the things that I may have said, thought, and done, understanding how it affect me and other people around me and other people's lives. So that book is really going to highlight a true understanding on what it looks like to not just live a Christ-filled life, but understand why it needs to be done. And I'm not saying that we're going to all get it and we're going to be perfect. We got to work at it continuously. But at the end of the day, you have to have a
Right.
heart and a mind and an intent to live that way, or else you just, you the hamster on the wheel, going in circles. And then the other book I have, I won't tell you the name of it, but it has to do with hypermasculinity, and it's addressing men as leaders and what that looks like, that journey of how we have become to be the people that we are, and not understanding that a lot of us have just been taught wrong and been conditioned by environments that showed us different ways of being men that actually don't work for natural relationships when it comes to being a husband, a father, and being a leader, being a public figure, an influencer. Because people follow you as a man, and then it's just my experience. People pay attention to you as a man, the type of decisions you make, and everyone has this, their own subjective opinion about who you are and what it looks like to be you. But we have to be able to understand that it's just not as much as we're designed and created and expected to be strong. Sometimes it's okay to sit down and be soft. I can't tell you one time, where it just doesn't always work to be that hyper masculine person. Is destructive to who you are. Like you begin to lose your sense of empathy, and you can't connect
That's
with
right.
like and this is something I learned from my wife. I had to really like go through some stuff. Me and my wife, we had to really go
I
through
was
some
just
things.
getting ready to say, in a marriage,
Yeah.
that's what people want to see. They want to see the other side, both sides,
But the problem is no one wants to talk about it because it comes with the shame. But don't worry about it. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok. You'll see it
Yes.
popping up pretty soon here. Find me on LinkedIn, D'Angelo Richardson, ed.d. I'm gonna start talking about this stuff a lot more frequently because you know men are afraid to be vulnerable, and the world is afraid of men being vulnerable because of what it'll expose. And it's okay. Like we see it in movies all the time. Why are we entertained by it but don't want to talk about how real it is in our everyday life? And that's the problem. Too many
Yes.
people share the opinions. And Christ said it. Offenses will come. They're gonna judge you, they're gonna cast stones at you, they're gonna try to destroy your character. It's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, your life is a testimony, and somebody's gonna be able to get delivered from your truth. So you can't run from it. Like it's really you're
That's
not running
right.
from anybody but God. Like you can't. It's you can't put it in
Yes.
words. It's something we got to be willing to do amongst each other.
And you saying that reminds me from the mental health aspect of looking at the numbers of suicide. Like they say, women think about it so much more, but men are the ones who actually carry it out. And
Yeah,
statistics show because they have more access to, lethal weapons and all kind of things. But if we had communities where men could talk more and women could talk more without judgment, it would be okay. It would be okay. And they wouldn't make that decision.
yeah. And the root of it is for mental health issues. A lot of us we think it has to stem from something that's super traumatic, and it's not. It doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it's just a sudden adjustment or change in your life where adjustment disorder with anxiety, that's a real thing, and it can produce a more grave issue as far as your mental health. So you have to be willing to understand like what the root issue is and get back
That's
to it and
great.
dig to understand. Because if you don't, like I wouldn't suggest anyone commit suicide, but the fact of the matter is what affects you in a way that might destroy you mentally may not have that same effect on me. And then for women it's also different because you all have children. Postpartum
Right.
depression is a real thing, and as men we don't understand that, so we don't even
Real.
know how to yeah, we don't know how to connect, because we don't get it. We know that it's a real thing but we're not experiencing it. I'm like I said,
Right.
I'm gonna talk about it and shed light to it. I'm not afraid to talk about even the things that I've done wrong in my life that may have caused someone else mental
Yeah.
trauma. Is you have to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. It happens. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. So what we ducking and
That's
hiding and
right.
running from?
Nothing.
So,
Yes. Well, tell our audience again, how can they connect with you? What website, anything that they need so they can stay connected with you.
yeah, so I'm on a TikTok, different reasons. You can look it up. You can also I just started getting into the concept of being on social media. So yeah, my TikTok is different dot reasons, I believe it is, and then my Instagram is different underscore reasons, and you'll know it's me because you'll see my face and it'll say the doctor. So I'm gonna start getting on Instagram a little bit more frequently, and on LinkedIn is where I'm usually found, D'Angelo Richardson ed.d, and on my website where it's still we got it all finished, but I'm not gonna pilot it until maybe about July 15th. So it'll be
Okay.
www.dreasons.com. That's DREASONS.com. A lot of what we do here at Different Reasons, you'll see it, and you may take interest to it. Don't be afraid to reach out if you need a coach, a life coach for any specific purpose, whether it be entrepreneurial, personal, based on leadership, education, family, finances. We have a team and a group of individuals who we can get you to get you coached up and prepared for your future because you are the next leader, whether you like it or not.
Yes, I love it. Well, as we come to a close, what are some words of empowerment that you would love to leave, whether it's a quote, scripture, whatever comes to mind? What are some words of empowerment you would love to leave for our listeners today?
28. And we know that all things work together to the good of them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. And the next and last quote I'll leave you with
Yes,
is one of my favorites, Alvin Toffler. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn,
mm,
and relearn. You got to be willing to grow, and you got to understand that even when it hurt, It's only just developing you to be a better person for tomorrow, because it's going to be necessary for that obstacle that you got coming and that testimony that you have to give to someone else to help them get delivered so they can become who you are or a better version of you, so that they can lead the next generation that's coming behind all of us.
Yes, I love that because you know how now you run into people that like be life, man. But we got to take the
Mhm.
lesson and apply it because there's a lesson in it. Because if not, the pain and the suffering is just for nothing. So we have to take the lesson in it and keep going. So yes,
It's all
but
for a
we're so
purpose.
excited to have you on our
Thank you.
episode. We definitely
Thank
would
you.
love to have you back. We're going to be starting our new season on relationships, so you can bring your wife or anybody who you would love to come and just join in as we ask those tough questions to just help others because you just never know. People are hurting on so many levels. And if we can help, other people and allow them to stay together or make the decision they need to make, whatever that looks like. And so that's what we'll be spreading the mission to as we empower minds to live empowered lives on the next season.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Again, we're excited to have you as a guest, and everyone will stay in tune and connection with you.
Definitely. Definitely. You all take care. Be blessed.